So let's talk about NFTs. That term is just everywhere, right? And honestly, it can feel pretty overwhelming. But what if I told you it's actually a really simple idea at its core? In this explainer, we're going to strip away all the hype and get right to what NFTs really are.
And if you've heard that term and felt confused, or maybe even a little skeptical, you are definitely not alone. That feeling of, wait, is this even for me? Or am I already behind on this? That's a totally normal reaction to any new tech. You're in good company.
So our whole goal here is to just hit the pause button. Seriously, no hype, no pressure telling you need to buy something or get in early. We're just going to walk through the whole concept, step by step, using plain language, so you can feel confident that you really get the what and the why.
All right, so let's dive right into the big question. Let's forget all the complicated techie talk for a minute and just ask, what is an NFT really? Okay, here it is. This is the simplest way to think about it. At its very core, an NFT is just a digital proof of ownership, like a certificate of authenticity or a receipt that lives online. That's it. That's the big idea in a nutshell. And this comparison really helps it click, I think. We totally get this in the physical world, right? You've got a signed book. That signature proves it's special. Well, an NFT does the exact same thing, just for a digital item. It's the same job, different format. Okay, but that brings up a really good question. Why? Why do we even need this? What problem is this whole thing actually trying to solve? What's funny is how much of this stuff is already part of our lives. I mean, just think about it. Your photos, your music, maybe even important documents. So many of the things we value are now purely digital. They're all just files, right? Files that can be copied and pasted a million times over. So if you can just right-click and save as on pretty much any image online, how on earth do you prove which one is the original? How can an artist prove, hey, I made that? Or how can a collector prove they own the real authentic version? This is the digital ownership problem that NFTs were created to solve. Okay, so how does it actually work? Now, look, the technology behind this can get super complex, but the idea itself, it really doesn't have to be. We're going to use a simple analogy here to make sense of it all without the tech overload. Okay, so just imagine a giant public notebook. The key is that anyone can look at it, but nobody can erase what's written inside. On every page, there's a record of who owns what, and it's got a timestamp on it so you know exactly when it was recorded. And the most important part? Once an entry is written in this notebook, it's permanent. It can't be changed. An NFT is basically just one single entry in that giant, unchangeable public notebook.
It's kind of like email, right? Most of us have no idea about the complex protocols that make email work, but we all know what it's for. We know how to send a message. And it's really the same thing with NFTs. Understanding the purpose, that it's for proving ownership, is way more important than knowing all the nitty-gritty mechanics.
All right, so we've established that an NFT is a digital proof of ownership. Cool, but what can you actually, do with one? Let's try to separate the real practical uses from all the crazy hype you see in the headlines. I think this is a really important point. At the end of the day, NFTs are just tools. They're not magic. They're like a hammer or a spreadsheet. A tool isn't inherently good or bad, right? Its value comes from what people actually do with it. So let's look at some real practical uses. For example, an artist can finally have a way to prove they are the original creator of a piece of digital art. A musician could sell tickets to a show as NFTs, which would make them really hard to counterfeit. Or a business could give out loyalty rewards. It's all about finding useful jobs for this tool, which goes way beyond just selling expensive art. And this leads us to probably the biggest question of all, the one that's fueled by all those crazy news stories. Is this whole thing just for super rich art collectors and tech insiders? Is it just some exclusive club? All right, let's break down some of these common myths. So, first myth, NFTs are only for expensive art. The reality, so many NFTs actually cost nothing or are just used to prove you attended an event or something. They're not all sold for millions. Next myth, you need to be a tech genius to get this. The reality, as we've seen, is that you can totally understand the main idea without knowing a single line of code. What about NFTs are a scam? Well, the reality is the technology itself is just a tool. Scams come from people who misuse the tool, not from the tool itself. And this last one is a big one. That feeling of, if I don't learn this now, I'm going to fall behind. The reality, learning at your own pace is exactly the right way to do it. There's no race. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. What are the main things you should really walk away with? Let's boil it all down. If you only remember a few things from this, let it be these 4 points. Number 1, NFTs are just digital proof of ownership. Think digital receipt. Number 2, they're a way to track who owns a specific digital thing. Number 3, you absolutely do not need to be a tech expert to get the concept. And maybe most importantly, number 4, you are not late and you are not behind. You're learning about it right now, and that's perfect.
And I really want you to take this to heart. Good technology should feel empowering, not stressful. If you ever find yourself getting stressed out by some new tech concept, that's your cue to just step back, take a breath. You are always in the driver's seat of your own learning. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What digital things do you already value in your own life? Maybe it's a collection of photos, something you've written, or your own digital art. Just thinking about that is the real first step to understanding why proving ownership in this digital world might actually matter.